Welcome back to Four Faces. The question I'm going to ask today is, with all that's going on with Ukraine and China, will China ever eat cupcakes with Russia? Yeah, I mean, will they ever sit there and talk together and have a good time and sip some tea and become best of buddies? The answer is no. It's not going to happen. I'm going to explain to you why. The reason why is very simple. Is if you look at it from a historical point of view, you'll see that China and Russia fought many times. Yes. Matter of fact, Russia took some of China's land. Yeah. Right? And in addition to that, if you look at Mao, who was the president of China, who actually started the PRC in 1949, you'll see that even though Stalin helped, which is true, Stalin did help, China set up a communist state. They did do that. I'm not going to deny that. They did help him with that. But after Stalin died, Mao actually looked at everybody else like, these are a bunch of clowns. Like, he didn't feel like they were strong enough communist country no more. He felt like they was kind of weak. And he made a lot of remarks against that current president at that time. And when that happened was, after a while, Mao was like, yo, we're gonna go fight. We're gonna go fight. And that's exactly what happened. They went to war. And this is not talked about a lot, and it's kind of surprising that it's not. I would think that, if I was the president of the United States, let's just say, what I would do is I would bring this up. I would surely bring this up. I would be like, Russia, Putin, you're sitting there, you're going against Ukraine, you're going to attack Ukraine, but because you're saying that that's our land, we controlled it, they was part of the Soviet Union, but you actually, and I would do it just to get China on my side. I'd be like, you know what? You actually took some of China's land. Remember? Yeah, you took some of China's land. Matter of fact, you fought Chinese. You fought the Chinese. And in addition to that, you insulted their president, which is Mao, which is, by the way, he's giving credit for actually taking China and modernizing them, bringing them up to economic power. And you kind of like disrespected their leader. I mean, if I was the president of the United States, that's what I would say, just to get, kind of get China on my side, even though we got our differences, but just like, it's kind of like a psychological move, right? Wouldn't it make sense? Yeah, China, Russia, you sitting there talking about you want border protection and, you want this buffer space, but you sat there and you took over China's land. Are you going to give back Chinese land? Are you going to say, okay, here you go, the land is yours, sorry, my fault? Are you going to do that? And then see what the Chinese president would say. See how he would respond. I guarantee you it'll bring back thoughts. Because let's be honest, guys. A lot of people don't, have their differences about China. Some people don't even like China at all. I'm just keeping it real. But at the end of the day, if you look at China from a historical point of view, you see that China was invaded multiple times by many different nations. And if you want to know some of them, well, you can start with the United States of America. You can start with Italy. You can start with Russia, right? France. I mean, there's kind of a list of people that you could list that actually invaded China, right? And Japan, of course, right? So if I'm a Chinese president, I would be saying to myself, you know what? If I were here, I would reminisce and be like, you know what? I don't trust Russia. Yeah, that's a good point. Why would I trust Russia for? I mean, think about it. When World War II happened, they didn't rush to Chinese help. I mean, Japan was basically cremating Chinese. They was killing them savagely. It was savage. It was cutting people's heads off. Go take a look at the records. You'll see. Look at the history. You'll see. Right? And did Russia come in and jump in? No, matter of fact, Russia actually sided with Hitler. It was only, I say it again, it was only until Germany turned on Russia. That was the only time that Russia decided, you know what, I'm going to defeat Germany. That was it. So, And then if I'm a Chinese president, in addition to that, I'm looking at this situation. I'm like, okay, China is like, if I'm a Chinese president, I'll be like, this is more reason why I wouldn't trust China. More reason why I wouldn't trust Russia, because in my mind, I'd be like, well, these guys are willing to go to a country. By the way, Ukraine, if you didn't know, is one of the poorest countries in that side of the world. It's one of the poorest countries. I mean, it's a poor country. So if you're willing to go, if I'm a president of China, I'm thinking, well, if you're willing to go and destroy this people like a big bully to take some land, so you need some space because you need sovereignty and all these so-called reasons, why in the world would I trust you? Because you might have other agenda too. You might decide, you know what, forget the border that we have between one another. Keep in mind, I do want to mention that, is that China and Russia, they share a border together, right? Who's to say that later on Russia don't decide, you know what, forget them borders. I'm taking this space here. Who's to say they wouldn't do that? I mean, think about it. Would you trust someone that's like that, who's two-faced? I wouldn't do it. I really, really wouldn't trust them. And as far as the other countries are concerned, if I'm looking at this from another perspective lens, I would say, you know what? I'm talking about other countries as far as European, America, all these other countries like, Italy and all these countries. I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to build up my military now because I see that these guys are on a mission similar to pretty much what Germany did. Let's be honest, right? World War II, what was that about? Hitler decided, you know what? I'm taking back that land that I feel was mine. I'm taking it back. I'm going to take back Poland and every other land that's around me, right? That's exactly what happened. So with that being said, this is why I should say, I don't see China and Russia teaming up as buddies. Let me tell you something. The Chinese people, definitely the president, is not stupid. They know Russia is doing what they can do for themselves. And here's the proof, my point to you, that China do not have a military alliance with Russia. They don't. They have a mutual agreement, but they do not have a military alliance. Think about that. There is no military alliance with Russia. And mind you, NATO is basically a military alliance with all these other countries, right? You're talking about NATO, who's part of NATO. You're talking about Britain, you're talking about countries in other countries, Europe, Italy, Germany, etc., France, right? But yet, China, you would think that since they have the same economic, stance, communism, you would think that, okay, hey, we left-handed code. Why don't we, make a partnership? Why don't we have our own military alliance? Why don't we set up our own? And that's not what happened. China have never set up a military alliance with Russia. They have an agreement, I should say military. They have some type of agreement, alliance, but not a military alliance, meaning that if one gets attacked, the other going to jump in. They don't have that at all. Not at all. Which says to me that China does not trust Russia, and vice versa for that matter. Because keep in mind, Russia actually degraded the Chinese. And I'm going to prove it to you. When the Korean War happened, Russia promised that they would go and help the Chinese fight that war. That never happened. They never sent in the military equipment that they requested. They never did. Not to the level that they had requested. It wasn't there. Right? So that got Mal upset again. So it's just this, there's a level of distrust. When you trust somebody, you're going to bring them into your fold. You're going to communicate, you're going to work with them. The only country, I should say, that China have a military alliance with is North Korea. That's it. No other country, just North Korea. Because China remembers what these countries did to them. Keep this in mind. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to face that reality. But China remembers. They remember Russia attacking them. They remember America. They remember Britain. All these other countries around the globe that went and basically, invaded their country. Japan, all of them. They remember. They're not stupid now. Don't think because, a person of a different culture makes them dumb. That's That's naive, and you'll wind up losing every single time, right? So, will China and Russia become so much of a buddy that they're going to eat ice cream and cake together? Answer is no. That's not going to happen. Will they have agreements? They might have some type of agreement with one another. Listen, if I'm in trouble, I give you some military help, I give you some financial help. Yeah, that's possible. I'm not saying that's not possible. But would they together try to dominate the world? That ain't going to happen. Russia will be fighting that war by themselves. And that's what I see happening. I see that this move that Russia made, I believe it's a bad move. And to be honest with you, if we all going to be honest, Putin, if I'm pronouncing his name right, I'm kind of actually surprised he made the move that he did. I knew he was going to make the move. We probably all knew that he was going to make the move. But I think that this time around, he did the move out of anger more than anything else. I truly believe that. Because there is no grand benefit of him going there, taking over Ukraine. Like I said before, Ukraine is not a rich country. It's one of the poorest countries in that region. Even as far as natural resources are concerned, it don't even have a lot of natural resources. So, I mean, there's really not no big win except for the one that he wants, which is I want to take over his country. I need buffer space. I want to make sure that they demilitarize and et cetera, et cetera. Bunch of nonsense, basically. Because keep in mind, I do want to mention one more last thing, is that Ukraine been independent since 1991. So now I know a lot of people are like, oh, Ukraine, we shouldn't get involved with that. Some people are like that. They feel we shouldn't get involved. But keep in mind, this country, Ukraine, been independent since 1991. That's decades. That's multiple decades ago. Think about that. Now, for all of you out there that feels like, you know what, that ain't my problem. There you go. Don't go do what they got to do. I don't want to get involved. It's called isolationists. That's exactly what it is. When did we do that? Have we ever done that before? Yes, we did. We took the same position in World War II. Yes. World War II, we had the same position. We was like, I don't want to get involved. Whatever's happening in Europe stays in Europe. I don't want to know. Where's my cupcakes? Where's my tea? I'm hungry. That's basically what happened. But it was a huge mistake because what happened was we wound up coming into the war anyway. Why? Pearl Harbor, as we all know, right? But by the time we interact and got into the war, millions and millions of people was dying. And we just sat back. We was giving military equipment and financing and all that type of stuff. Yes, we was providing that to these countries, to our allies. But in some ways, if we would have got involved probably a little bit earlier, less people would have died. Matter of fact, Pearl Harbor might have never even happened. Think about it. Think about that. It might have never ever happened because we were sleeping. We was caught off guard with Pearl Harbor. Think about it. Now, there are some reports that says that America might have known, and I mean, history only would be the answer to that. But lastly, before I go, keep in mind that this war that's obviously might turn disastrous is going to increase oil prices. Oil prices are going to definitely go up. If they're not up already, if you look in California, it's like $5.19, which is kind of crazy. Things going to be affected. There is no win in this situation. Whether you for war or against war, I will say at the end of the day, innocent people are going to die.